I'm terrified. When Faith asked me to speak tonight about no limits, being limitless with your thoughts, I thought, why me? You see, I question myself a lot. I'm really, really fickle. I'm the sort of person that will take on a diet and I'll lose a few kilos and then I'll eat all the cake and all the pizza and think I'm okay. I struggled massively with thinking, am I good enough? Good enough as a wife to Alan, as a mum to my little girl Sophie. Mummy guilt is the hardest. A good daughter, sister, friend, Scentsy lady and a Scentsy leader. I worry way too much about what people think of me, and I know that holds me back. But I think we all have moments in our life where we go for it. We live with no limits, where we're laser focused on what we want, and inevitably when we do that, we succeed beyond what we ever dreamt was possible. Self-awareness and having the freedom to choose is the gift as humans we've been given. It's what sets us apart from animals. And that choice is what allows us to live without limitations. So even if I don't always get it right, I know in my heart I don't believe in limits, I believe in growth. And as many times as I fail or I fall, I always try again. But there are a few occasions in my life, both personal and in business, where I haven't let anyone or anything limit me in achieving what I wanted to achieve. And they're the stories I want to share with you tonight. And I'm sharing them because even with all my doubt, if I can do it, every single one of you can. Thanks. My story that defines a lot of my adulthood happened 3 years before I'd even heard of Scentsy. Being a mummy was something I thought we all got to choose to do. It never occurred to me that it wouldn't be plain sailing. When Alan and I made the choice to start a family, I looked forward to having a bump, painting the nursery, choosing the names and all the fun stuff that you get to do and that you dream of. I fell pregnant straight away and all those hopes and dreams started right there with those 2 little lines on the pregnancy test. I got a phone call after a routine blood test at 18 weeks to come into the hospital. Instantly I started to panic. The doctors explained that something wasn't right, and with the results I needed to have something that was called a Doppler, which is where they measure the blood that flows to the baby. That day we found out we was having a little girl. But we also found out that there was something wrong and that my blood wasn't able to feed her properly. They didn't sugarcoat it. It was going to be a really long, hard slog to get her into the world. We were shown around the neonatal unit. It blew my mind, and was told as soon as she was big enough, I would give birth. They also said that they needed to admit me straight away on bed rest to give her a fighting chance. So there I stayed for 12 weeks, laying in bed, unable to move on oxygen. This will definitely test you and make you realise what is and isn't important, that's for sure. She came into the world on the 12th of May. Charlotte Violet Bartle, as she was born sleeping. What sticks with me the most is the silence, to give birth in silence when there's no crying, there's no joy. Everybody in the room was completely silent. It was one of the hardest times of my life, for me and my husband. But at no point did I think that this was it, and we tried again as soon as it was safe for us to do so. Only to find that the same thing happened again. And on the 6th of September the following year, baby Ben was born, but again he wasn't able to stay. And we were heartbroken all over again. It was almost too much to bear. I was so blinkered by the fact that I knew that I was going to be a mummy. Even when my consultant told me it was too dangerous for me to give birth. Even when losing 2 children in 2 years and nearly losing my own life when I gave birth to Ben, I still knew in my heart I was going to be a mummy. So where do you go when you have your choices taken away from you? Where do you go when normal isn't an option? Do you give up and admit defeat? You could say it's just not meant to be. If I'd done those things, on the 15th of May 2014, Sophie Michelle Bartle would not have been born. The whirlwind, the diva, my ginger ninja, the absolute light of my life. Notice her middle name is Michelle. You see, we named her after her auntie. We didn't give up. We had IVF to have Sophie, and my amazing sister-in-law carried her for me for 9 months. Auntie Michelle is the most loved oven in the whole world. On the day Sophie was born, Alan, my brother, and myself were all allowed into the theatre to watch her being born. They handed her to me and put her on my chest. And I just whispered to her, I've waited such a long time for you. I will never be able to thank my brother and sister-in-law enough for giving us life as we know it, and I'm grateful beyond measure. If I'd accepted the limits that were placed on me, I never ever would have had the chance to take home a happy and healthy baby. If I'd accepted the limits, I wouldn't be here now and I never would have joined Scentsy. Fast forward now to the 30th of August 2015. We have this beautiful little girl and we're living now in a brand new country, Australia. Having Charlotte and Ben made us realise we need to dig deep, make it happen. You only get one go at it and just to go for it. Life is great, but it's hard. Alan works away and we have no family and support system around us at all. Joining Scentsy for me happened on a whim. It wasn't a thought out plan and I almost gave up when I found out I couldn't sell to my family back in the UK because I literally didn't know anybody over here. I convinced myself it was impossible. You know when you have that dialogue in your brain? I can remember having conversations with myself, trying to convince myself I couldn't do it. New country, new baby, no friends, no family. I'm crazy to think that it could work. And again, I found myself saying, where do you go when you have your choices taken away from you? What do you do when normal isn't an option? You could give up and admit defeat. You could say it's not meant to be. It was one of those moments where I could easily have given up. But something drove me, maybe the knowledge that I couldn't go on like this forever, so isolated and alone. So I stepped up, like literally stepped up, walked the length and breadth of my town, plugging in warmers to businesses every week, giving samples, all with Sophie in tow, completely terrified. But it worked. By not throwing in the towel of every no, and there was so many no's, so many, I started to build up something and I felt so good. It was so empowering, and since joining, I've earned every incentive, top 100 to Africa, annual mentor, annual sales. Thank you. I've built a global team, and most importantly, I've built a family, a support network of Scentsy auntie and uncles for Sophie, and people that have picked me up and supported me through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last year, when my husband became really poorly, something triggered in me. And looking back, I think that everything that had happened previously had a really big impact on me, obviously. And I suddenly started to panic that something would happen to me or him, and this beautiful gift that we'd been given of a family would be taken away from me, and I couldn't cope. I started to suffer with really bad health anxiety, you know, the type where you cut your finger and you go on Dr. Google and convince yourself you've got a brain tumour. That was me. I couldn't drive, I had massive panic attacks, I found it hard to function, it was totally overwhelming. And once again, I found myself saying, where do you go when you have your choices taken away from you? Where do you go when normal isn't an option? You could give up and admit defeat and say it's just not meant to be. But I chose not to give up. And I thank God for my Scentsy support crew, Alan, and a whole heap of counselling. I got through it. And again, it helped me realise that I get to choose how I'm emotionally affected. I could be the sort of person that lets a storm set them back, or I could be the kind of person that carries their weather with them. I would not have got through 2018 without my Scentsy family, so thank you. We all have our own version of heartbreak, times where we thought we would give up and never see light at the end of the tunnel. Remember, the greater the storm, the brighter your rainbow. I know that I don't have all the answers and my doubts hold me back, but also when I trust in myself and those that love me, I can be super powerful. So let's make a promise to ourselves tonight to try and live life with a little less fear and to have a serious chat with ourselves when we start to put those daily limits on ourselves. Yes, we will make mistakes. Yes, there will be obstacles in our way, but let's live our lives like it's meant to be, which is a true gift. I know for Charlotte, for Ben and for Sophie, I will do all in my power to live the best version of my life that I can. Thank you.